There's a lot happening in society at the moment, but the ultimate question is, do you need to be an entrepreneur in order for you to be successful? Is entrepreneurship the only path to success right now? If you've been thinking about these questions and more, then you're definitely in the right place, career ladder. And actually, this will help you and support you on your journey towards developing a strong, robust, and flourishing portfolio career. So make sure to click the link in the description below. Now, of course, we scroll through social media every single day, seeing this founder and that person break through and become this person who is now living life on their own terms. They're making a million gazillion pounds per month, and actually it's really easy to do. You see it on LinkedIn, you see it on TikTok, you see it on Instagram, you see it on all of the socials, and you actually think to yourself, are you doing enough to transition into this space, or is playing it safe the right thing to do? So why do many of us feel this intense pressure to jump into entrepreneurship? Well, I believe it's because we're really being fed this thing I call the entrepreneurship myth. Now, this is me not necessarily saying you can't be an entrepreneur, but there are so many things within the system that feeds this narrative. You go onto social media or the news and you see these different, again, outlets glorifying certain types of entrepreneurs who have done something that only 0.0000001% of people can do. And they make it seem as if actually, if they can do it, you can do it too. We also see various individuals pushing and shouting that actually entrepreneurship is the way that we're going to get out of this situation that we're in personally, or even on a national level as well. And so you may have seen in previous years, whether in the UK, US, whatever it may be, that actually national institutions are pushing this idea of entrepreneurship as well. And I'll be honest, I'm guilty to some degree. Although I don't specifically talk about entrepreneurship, I talk about the portfolio career. And so it ends up making you feeling like actually the traditional career ladder does not make sense. And actually what you're doing is inadequate and you need to be doing more. Now, what's the real cost of you chasing this entrepreneurial myth? And again, when I say myth, I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm just saying it may not be suitable for all. Well, we all know this statistic that has basically highlighted that most businesses fail within the first 5 years. And actually, I don't actually know if that is statistically true, so to speak. But what we do know is that some people give up. We do know that it's a fiercely competitive market. And we do know that some people are just not fit out or put out to be an entrepreneur. Now, there have been many statistics done on founders who have actually felt burnt out and a sense of loneliness because they've been chasing this pursuit. What they don't talk about is the fact that you could spend 2, 5, 10, 15, 20 years chasing something that A, may never happen, or B, may eventually happen, but doesn't pay for all of the stress and commitment that you have made over those number of years. And that is something that is hidden underneath a rug. The reality is for some of you is that actually you're chasing something that doesn't naturally fit within the guise of who you are as a person. And therefore it's draining your resources. It's not aligned to your values. And you're spending all this money that could be spent on building something else that makes more sense for you. So what am I really saying here? Not necessarily saying give up on the ultimate goal, but maybe I'm saying for you as a person, it's about redefining what makes sense for you as an individual. Maybe the perspective shifts from ownership to impact instead. This leads me on to the term known as an entrepreneur. It's a term that was brought up by the company or the consultancy McKinsey. And essentially, it describes an individual who works for an organization that leads projects, provides value and impact, and does various things in order to, again, really make a business boom. So rather than setting up your own business and organization, you're vital and useful within another person's organization and company. And so this is where you start to build your brand. This is where you start to get known. This is where you get more opportunities and actually, in effect, build your portfolio career. Now, of course, what may lead from this is the opportunity to get shares and equity from a company potentially, opportunities to be a number 1, number 2, or number 3, let's just say number 2 or 3 in another organization, and actually work out and define what you do really, really well. And so if you decide to build your thing later on, then fair enough. But if this is where you're best housed, then that's what you need to focus on. Of course, you know me, I like a bit of a framework. And so this brings me into a 3-pronged pillar framework that you can utilize in order to develop your entrepreneurship skills. The first thing you need to do is define what makes sense for you. So maybe you need to deconstruct your definition. Now, this really comes down to facing the entrepreneurship myth head on. Now, it's not that entrepreneurship does not exist for people. Does it work for you as a person? Understand your current situation, understand what your key values are, your behaviors are. How do you do this? You basically essentially analyze your life over the last 5 to 10 years and be clear about how you've approached different situations. Look at the key sort of like qualities of an entrepreneur. And actually, do you fit those key qualities? Are you willing to do something again and again and again for a very long time, even if you don't get the result that you want, consistently and persistently? Are you willing to be disciplined and strict when it comes to understanding the principles of entrepreneurship so you can go on the acceleration curve and actually achieve the things that you want to achieve as an entrepreneur? Or do you want to call it quits and actually understand the external pressures and determine and understand the current situation you're in right now and say, actually, I don't think this is cut out for me. Maybe it may be a not yet, or it may be actually this is definitely not cut out for me. And that's okay. But this is about looking at the data and the information and accepting the information for what it tells you. Yes, we know that the whole 95%, 80%, 75% of entrepreneurs fail within the first 5 years, but how are they measuring that information? Is that being measured based on dissolved companies? Because that doesn't necessarily mean failure. It could mean so many different things in so many different ways. And so you have to be clear about what is true and what isn't true. And of course, this may be different based on who you are as a person, the niche that you're in, and the customers that you're attracting as well. These are all things to consider, but make a decision. The second thing you need to do is to define your personal scorecard. Now, for me, I have my own personal scorecard, and it allows me to understand how effective I am as a person. Again, because I like to put things into certain frameworks, I use it as a leadership model. And so I need to understand how to lead myself. So this is what my framework looks like. So am I audaciously authentic in what I'm doing? Does it allow me to be myself? Does it allow me to align to my values? Does it allow me to align to a vision, i.e., where I see myself being? The second thing is there some level of crystal clarity? Am I able to make the money I want to make? Am I going to be able to do the things I want to do? Can I plan for this effectively? Does it make sense to do, or doesn't it make sense for me to do? How do I analyze that information? The third thing is consider communication. Can I communicate and express myself the way I want to do it, whether it's the written word, the spoken word, maybe it's something else visually? Can I communicate with the right sorts of people? The fourth thing is voracious vitality. So do I feel a sense of well-being and energy in what I'm doing? Do I feel drained from it, or does it give me and boost energy into my system? And finally, perceptive persuasion. Do people see me as good within this space? Is there potential for people to see me as some sort of thought leader or someone who has influence and power? These are the criteria that I use, but you can determine your own ones. And if you want to test yourself against these criteria, you can check out the links below where you can see the scorecard and actually answer some questions where it can give you some advice in terms of what you need to do in order to raise your levels within those areas. Once you know your definition of what makes sense for you, and once you understand what your scorecard is, then you can decide what model you need to focus on. What is the vehicle that you're going to use in order to build your portfolio career? If you decide it's entrepreneurship, that's great. If you decide that you want to be an entrepreneur, then it's thinking about, where do I need to grow? Like, what organizational company do I need to be aligned to? What sort of projects do I want to be doing? What sort of skills do I want to develop? What qualifications do I want? What brands do I want within this space in order for me to really affect, impact, and value for an organization or group of people who are benefiting from that organization? And if you don't think you're an entrepreneur, then the other side of it is you become a deeply respected expert. And so maybe there are some stuff that you've done over the years that actually people need to start knowing about. And so whether you've watched my previous videos on the 9 steps to build a strong portfolio career, it doesn't matter whether you're doing entrepreneurship, intrapreneurship, or being a deep respected expert, it fits all of those different roles. So again, really think to yourself, you don't have to take on the pressure of having to be an entrepreneur, but do the heavy work to understand whether you are best fit for it or not. Again, if you want to learn more about this whole space, then you can check out my free gift where I talk about how you can escape the career ladder. You can learn more about that. And I've also mentioned the scorecard that I utilize in order to develop the criteria to understand what my scorecard is in life, what gives me joy, what gives me meaning, and all of those things there. So if you want to see more videos centered around portfolio careers, contracting, and the alike, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.